Committee coordinator flight agenda because of course agenda credentials and apologies. Mankale chairperson we-committee Honorable Fihlani oye kwagqirha ngalo mzuzu kodwa uzawujoyina apha ethubeni. From your side, office coordinator, committee coordinator.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. We have apologies from the following members. Honorable Konsiwe is attending a virtual block section in VETS. Honorable Matiwana and Honorable Vimbayo are attending a Auditor General briefing session, which was scheduled for today. Honorable Fihlani will join the meeting later. And the last one is from Ms. Sturman, the legal advisor. She is not feeling well. She is on sick leave. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Are we correcting? Committee coordinator.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the adoption of the agenda, members.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable.
Before we get to the third item, I just want to draw your attention to Rule 66, sub-rule 2.
Sorry, Honorable. Ms. Mlindi, please mute your mic. Yes, Honorable Sazi.
I just want to draw your attention to Rule 66, sub-rule 2. That says, in the absence of the chairperson, the committee must elect one of its members to act as the chairperson for the specific meeting. This is again this background that I move that let's nominate you to be the chairperson of this session. I'll be glad if I can get a second to that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any second?
I move to second that idea from Honorable Saziwa.
Thanks, members.
Yeah, it's not an idea. It's acting chairperson on behalf of Ms. Fihlani.
Thanks. Enye into ndithatha nje enye into kusuka kwavakala nina ngoku ndiqhuba ngathi ndikwi-study group ndibele uba ndimele uba kuvunyelwane ngam. Enkosi Honorable Saziwa kakhulu. Let's move to item item number 3, adoption of the agenda.
Chairperson. No, Chair. Chairperson.
Yes.
I don't remember us accepting apologies.
Oh. Let's move for the acceptance of the apologies.
I move for the acceptance of apologies, Honorable Chair.
Second.
Bonyana, Chair.
Bonyana,
second.
Who's seconding Honorable Saziwa?
Upes is seconding Honorable Saziwa.
Thanks, members. Khona enye into efuna silungise before siye ku-item number 3, that is the adoption of the agenda. If no, let's move for the adoption of the agenda.
I move, Chair.
Chairperson, I second Honorable Mvenya, who's my wife.
Good For consideration of the adoption of the budget vote, mandicele committee coordinator just zoom into the findings from program 1 up to program 3, or in members, if siyavumelana namba i-report ibithunyelwe, if siyavumelana, we can correct findings, or sicele ke committee coordinator angene yena, then siphikishe ke ezo corrections nezinye izinto esiqonela uba zengezwe as our findings. But benirhalela uba mna committee coordinator athi go straight to our findings ngokwezi programs oyi-3. Siyavumelana, members? That's the office coordinator.
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Mlindi.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. I am presenting a budget report 2021 on Legislature Oversight Committee is as follows. I will go straight to the findings of program 1. Finding A on program 1, the critical plan.
Members.
Bese, honorable Bese, chairperson, honorable Bese lo.
Honorable Bese, iyakumosha network. Xa une network uyamosha committee. Please mute your mic, Honorable Bese. Over to you, Ms. Mlindi.
Program 1, finding A, the critical planned projects such as information communication technology, infrastructure, and the security upgrades have not been finalized due to insufficient budget. B, the institution plans to procure and implement the enterprise resource planning system following tendering processes. However, budget allocated is not sufficient and the institution has not yet advertised the tender due to a lockdown.
Mr. Mlindi.
Ma'am.
Awukwazi uba ezi findings sizibone thina. Okanye ndim ndedwa lungaziboni.
Ndizixhomile kodwa ma'am.
Mhlawumbe nguwe ongenazo.
Okay.
But
Wewe andinazo nam.
Members must check emails because they were sent to us yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done that. Otherwise, it has not been slighted on my side, but I'm using email.
I'm now on Venya ndinayo apha so xa ndinayo na unayo ke ndiyabona ikhona apha kwesam screen so isinayo sobabini.
Yes, Yena.
My side to A, finding A on program 1. The critical planned projects such as information communication technology, infrastructure, and the security upgrades have not been finalized due to insufficient budget. B, the institution plans to procure implement the enterprise resource planning system following tendering processes. However, budget allocated is not sufficient and the institution has not yet advertised the tender due to lockdown. C, the institution plans to implement the job grading and evaluation. D, There is an allegation of a huge amount that was paid to the University of Fort Hare for non-accredited academic program. Those funds have still not been recovered. It's program 1. Going down to the recommendations of program 1. A, the institution must continue to engage with the provincial treasury for the allocation of additional funds for the finalization of these critical projects. 2, B, the institution must move with speed in the acquisition of the enterprise resource practice system, which is long outstanding and which will go a long way in the ensuring operational efficiency. Further, the institution must continue to engage with provincial treasury for the allocation of sufficient funds for the full rollout of the ERP, which is the enterprise resource practice. C, the institution must ensure that implementation of the job grading and evaluation takes into account the negative economic outlook and declining financial resources. D, the institution must ensure that necessary investigations follows through on the matter and, where possible, appropriate sanction be administered on the liable individual who has paid money without first verifying whether the program qualifies as per South African Qualification Authority. Must I continue to program 2?
Yes, Ms. Mlind.
All right. Going down to program 2. Program 2 findings. Finding A, there is a member that has not been allocated an office as to date. B, the constituency offices being an extension of the legislature and are not reflective of this in terms of resources and functioning. This is mainly due to the non-finalization and implementation of the constituency model. C, the committee noted with a great concern that there is no proper technical system for the members to lodge their complaints as a current method is not assisting. E.g., members of parliament who are utilizing public works houses are charged business rates. D, the non-returning members of the legislature who received their gratuity were taxed incorrectly by SARS. Going down to the recommendations of program
Honourable
2.
Honourable Chair, Theo Kutsia.
Yes, Honourable.
Honourable Chair, can I just add, under the findings, we've missed an important one, that the parking cards at the airport of Port Elizabeth have still not been finalized.
Sorry, Honourable Member. We will discuss the findings and the recommendations after all presented by office coordinator. We will go for discussions after all the programs have been discussed, has been tabled. Do you get what I mean, Honorable Kute? Honorable Kute?
I'm fine. It's okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, we'll go
Honourable
for
Chair,
discussions.
it's fine. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Done.
Thank you, Chairperson. Recommendations on program 1, the program 2. Sorry, the institution must ensure that the member is allocated an office as a matter of extreme.
Sorry.
Emma.
Sorry. Honorable Saziwa, you want to speak now? or after the presentation?
After the presentation, my leader.
Okay, okay, okay. Carry on, Ms. Mlin.
Thank you, Chairperson. Recommendations on Program 2. A, the institution must ensure that the member is allocated an office as a matter of extreme urgency and to provide the committee with a report to this effect. B, the institution must ensure the finalization and the implementation of the constituency model. C, the institution must provide the committee with a plan that will effectively deal with the maintenance of the members' houses in the legislature. D, the institution must commission a structure to investigate this matter and must ensure that former members of the legislature were placed on correct tax brackets in order to ensure that even in future such anomaly does not happen. Going down to Program 3. Finding A on Program 3. Program 3 remains under-budgeted, and this negatively affects the oversight work of committees. B, the institution has adopted a district-based model where members undertake their oversight work in their respective districts. Members have, however, not provided with the support staff assist them in conducting their work. C, the non-filling of critical posts of legal advisors for this program is negatively affecting the work of the committees, as some committees do not have legal advisors. D, the institution is considering a different approach to the program of taking legislature to the people. E, the centralization of budget of committees as well as blanket allocation of slots without consideration of the oversight work of each committee negatively affected the effectiveness and the functioning of committees. Going down to the recommendations of Program 3. A, the institution must prioritize core business and ensure that budget allocated to Program 3 enables the institution to effectively fulfill its mandate. B, the institution must ensure that members are provided with a necessary staff to assist them in fulfilling their oversight work. C, the institution must ensure the filling of the post without delay and provide the committee with a clear project plan on the filling of the post. D, the institution must provide the committee with a plan on how the program of taking legislature to the people program will be conducted going forward and the financial benefit to be realized from this change in approach. E, the institution must consider the decentralization of a budget of each committee. Further, programming for committees must take into account the oversight work and size of each department. Come up to general findings. General findings. The non-implementation of House resolutions by the institution is a cause for concern for the committee. The institution continues to have poor security and access control system, despite the institution being a national key point. The general recommendations, the legislature as a oversight body should lead by example. Resolutions of the House must be implemented timeously. B, the institution must interact with the Department of Public Works to ensure that security upgrade and access control system is finalized without delays and that it is in line with the requirements of the National Key Point Act 1980, number 102. Thank you. Note, the institution must ensure that all recommendations are responded to within 30 days as required by the laws. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm done, Chairperson.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
done.
Mlindi. Okay, thanks, Ms. Mlindi. Honorable members, let's go to Program 1, recommendations and findings, corrections and additions. Honorable Saziwa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and let me appreciate the presentation of the draft report by Ms. Mlindi, our committee coordinator. Chair, I want to say that I may not be clinical in terms of saying whether this one falls under Program 1 or not. But I've got a matter that I want to test whether it falls under Program 1 or not. But I suspect it's supposed to fall under Program 1 or 2. The matter of proposed performance contracts for chairpersons of committees is missing in all the presentations that have just been made. And I want to bring that back because it's a finding that we got in terms of the presentation, in particular, an overview by our Honorable Speaker. So one matter that I think is missing is that one of the performance contract by chairpersons of committees. Well, if I could remember well, our response to that was that we don't think that is proper for now for this to be, considered. We requested the legislature to go and do benchmarking studies around this matter. Before then, we can say we approve of this as the committee, if I still remember well. I just want to test that, whether indeed this is what we said around that. So that's what I wanted to raise only for Program 1, Chair, for now. As I've said, I'm speaking under correction because I am unable to locate exactly whether this matter fits within Program 1 or 2. But I'm just throwing it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Saziwa, with your addition. Honorable Mbonyana.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mandibulise namhlanje emeetingini. Honorable Saziwa, indeed, we have agreed as the committee that the issue performance management for each persons of committees must go back and the institution your benchmark. So I want to support that, Chair. It must also be included in our findings and as well as recommendations as such, Chair. Secondly, Chair, mhlawumbe sihlalo mandithathe le opportunity sihlalo kuba i-meeting yethu ndiyayibona izawuba mfutshane. Mhlawumbe I just need a clarity from kumagqala, your Honorable Saziwa and Honorable Mfene, kule nto ye-repetitive findings. Because ufika kwam, Chair, le nto yase-40 oko ibikhona isekhona nangoku. So I want to check with the committee sihlalo kude kwenzeke ntoni kule nto ye-repetitive findings ekungade ku-implement i-recommendations of the committees. Just nje ndifundiswe sihlalo in that regard, Chair. Okwesibini, Chair, on Program 1, I think finding Chair, the institution must move with speed in the acquisition of the enterprise resource practice. I think, Chair, inde kakhulu la recommendation, Chair. Nahlala bendizawupropose into yobana masithathe la sentence yokugqibela ethi the institution must continue to engage with the provincial treasurer for the allocation of the sufficient funds for the rollout of the of the ERP. On Program 2, Chair, finding C and its recommendation. And Konbastalo, the issue of e-rates falls under the maintenance. Ingathi mnahlalo ingaba yi-finding on its own and ibe ne-recommendations zayo la issue ye-members ezibhatala i-rates according to i-businesses because we've sebenzisa into zika-public works. Mhlambe Chair, one other thing that mhlambe bendinobawela into yobana ndiclarifye Chair on Program 2. On Program 2, Chair, key priority 6.2, to facilitate tightening of security in ministerial residence. To me, Chair, Lando does not sit well because ingati focus when it comes to security measures. Yezindlu zamalungu, focus yazo is only on the part of the ministerial residence, of which I don't think it is supposed to be specific. It's supposed if ibe into general because Chair into ye-security fanba onke amalungu eParliament ibe iyaqwalasela laa nto irrespective of the location of the houses. So Chair, ndiyabawela into yobana mhlawumbi ke ibe nendlela yolungisa laa nto because inayo into yongacreata or us and them amongst the members, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair.
Chair, may I zoom in? I don't know whether I'm appearing.
Uyophunga usihlalo.
Chairperson.
Uyophunga makuqhutywa.
Okay. I assume that
I support that the chairperson maybe has been cut off. Can you allow members to call? We have seen in the chat box Honorable Davison as well as Honorable Mvenya. So after Honorable Bese, I'll allow these other members to come. And I suggest that just indicate which program we focus on, or is it a general matter? Honorable Bese.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Mine, I just want to raise something in connection with the issue of the University of Fort Hare non-accredited courses that were paid there. It was in the presentation, it was indicated clearly that those funds, not clear how gonna recover the funds that were paid to the University of Fort Hare. Mine, I want to strengthen the recommendation there. The recommendation, Chair, I should think, honorable members, let us not beat about the bush. Let's call a spade here. Who is the culprit to this matter of the University of Fort Hare? That's the first thing. Who is supposed to account to this matter of the University of Fort Hare? Yeah, because we are not supposed to do these things repeatedly. Even next year, we'll repeat the issue of Fort Hare. Oren Bonyan is quite correct, yes. So let's check, because if we're beating about the bush, we will talk about this issue until cow comes home, yes. The issue of the core program, which remain under budgeted for almost for every year, you know, the recommendations of the committee seemingly they are not implemented. So the issue of non-implementation of the resolution of the committee, it was indicated that it's a cause for concern. You know, Honorable Chair, what does that mean? If the recommendation of the committee are not being implemented, it means that the committee is ineffective. Because we must have a bottom line on how do we begin to deal with that situation. You know, I just wanted to raise those issues, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairperson. I have 2 points. The first one relates to the finding in Program 1 with regard to the issue of the security and the ICT infrastructure upgrade. Now, I just believe that this recommendation needs to be strengthened. You know, when I first came to the legislature in 1999, you had to swipe your card to be able to get in. So that there was a system. It wasn't a free-for-all. And ever since I've been here, and I'm sure the Honourable Invenia, who's also been here for over 15 years, will be able to testify that ever since then, we've been talking about these security upgrades and access control. So that's the first point. And then secondly, this ICT issue has been dragging on and dragging on and dragging on. And still in this day and age, you can't send an email through the legislature network of more than 4 megabytes. So I would request, Acting Chairperson, that we just add the words at the end of the recommendation as a matter of urgency, because we can't continue like this with this antiquated ICT infrastructure in this age. Thank you. Then, Chair, my second point is relating on Program 3, where they say this remains under budgeted and this negatively affects the oversight of the work of the committee. And this is more of a general issue where we were told in the committee that Provincial Treasury wants to cut the goods and services budget even more. And I just think this issue needs to be drawn out and fleshed out a bit more. Originally, the legislature requested 117 million or needed 117 million for goods and services. The budget then became 80 million. It was then reduced unilaterally by Treasury, I think by about 12 million without really consulting the Speaker. Now there is a proposal, I think they said in one of the briefing documents, of another 40 million, leaving us with a goods and services budget of 20 million. The legislature will not be able to function on that. And we are not like other departments. If we don't have a goods and services budget, then we can't come to the legislature, we can't go out on oversight, there's no payment for accommodation, etc. So I just believe this issue needs to be fleshed out a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Stevenson. And I hope that both the research and coordinator are able to pick up these areas that are seeking to strengthen the recommendation, also new findings that were missed. Honourable Mvenya.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Program 1. You see, Chair, B. No. Yeah. B. Finding B. Yes. You can't raise the insufficient budget as an issue, but at the same time, you also raise the lockdown as a reason why the tender has not been advertised. So there should be one reason there. You can't complain about lockdown and at the same time complain about insufficient funds. So which is which? I don't know whether you understand me, Chair.
Oh, I understand you, Honourable Mvera. I understand you, Honourable Mvera. What I want you to do is to make effect that correction so that we're able to precisely say what you're saying exactly as a finding. Therefore, it can be able to meet the recommendation.
Yeah, because their Chair, budget allocated is not sufficient, and the institution has not yet advertised the tender due to lockdown. We must have only one reason there. If it's budget insufficiency, it should be that. If it's advertisement, it should be that. So I don't know. I'm just raising it, Chair, for you to look into it.
I want to agree with you that
Any
let's
member,
talk about the insufficient budget and remove the other part for now in this finding, and then we look back to the matter of lack of advertisements due to the matter of COVID-19. So in other words, let's split this finding into two. Let's first focus on the first part that talks to insufficient budget of the legislature. Then we have another finding that some of the vacant posts, for instance, in the legal section, there have been a number of posts that have been vacant for more than 2 years. Then that will be another, finding, which will be followed by an appropriate recommendation. That is my proposal. All right. Now let's split this one. Do I get a second to my proposal? Taking forward the concern that Honorable Mbenya is raising.
I agree, Chair. I don't know about the other members. I agree, but I'm still on the floor.
Seconded, Chair. Okay.
Thank you. Are you
Chair?
Mbenya?
No, Chair. I'm still on the floor. I was just raising that one as my first point, Chair. Then D, same program 1. I want us to completely change that finding, Chair.
Finding?
Because finding D, program 1.
Okay.
Program 1, finding D. I want us to say, Chair, despite previous recommendations by the committee.
Please, can you slowly, effect your changes so that the coordinator is not left behind?
Okay. Despite the previous recommendations by the committee.
Yes.
Chair, the reason why I start Ngolo Hlobo, I want to emphasize, I'm trying to emphasize the point that this is a repetitive finding.
Repetitive finding, yes.
Yes. That's why I think it's important that we start with the despite, so that anyone who is reading it can understand that this is a repetitive finding without even stating it. Despite previous recommendations by the committee, the funds that were paid to the university for non-accredited academic program have not yet been recovered. Because, Chair, it's important that institution nayo understands that we are aware that this is a repetitive finding. And then, Chair, D, recommendation yakhe, it should not again talk about necessary investigations. It should now, Chair, speaks to the non-implementation of that recommendation. The speaker must account for the non-implementation of that recommendation. That is what rules are saying, Honorable Mbonyana, through you, Chair, about repetitive findings. The rule says if there is a repetitive finding, the head of the department must stand up and account or explain. It is treated like the questions for reply that are not responded to. So that is why here the speaker should be accounting for that non-implementation of that resolution. Because, Chair, if we treat that recommendation the way we have, even next year we will still have it here. We can't continue recommending and finding on the same issue. Then we must change the focus to the issue of repetitive finding. This is the leading institution in terms of oversight, or it should be. It should be a leading institution.
Is that all, Honorable Mvenya?
No, Chair. I would like to hear what the committee coordinator or the staff is written at the end of this session, Chair, or at the end of then finding program 2, finding B.
Okay.
That's a repetitive finding again, Chair. And yes, man, that's again a repetitive finding. But I don't know how to put it. But hey, we've been talking about this. What? But I'm going to leave it, Chair. I want to go to B, program 2B. I want to correct.
Let's go back to the B that you have mentioned. For me, what is the second part of that finding attests to the challenge that has led to those constituent offices not being treated as the extension of the legislature. Because there's non-finalization and implementation of the constituency model. All right.
Yeah, Chair. I
want you that what you have done with the program 1 finding D.
Yeah.
Right. Then we formulate that one. And I advise you that what you can do once you have done your formulation, after having read to the committee, just send it to our coordinator so that we can be able to follow it properly.
Despite continued recommendation or persistent recommendation by the committee, the constituency model has not been finalized. It's as short as that.
All right. Just hold on there. Members, who's supporting this reformulation of that finding? Because it means we're going to delete the other parts. Any someone that will reform the reformulation?
Yeah, Bonyana, second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bonyana. Honorable Mvenya, continue.
Chair, I don't know, the issue of the members' office allocation. I don't know, Chair, whether we should include it here as a finding and recommendation, or we should be getting a progress report. Remember, when we were dealing with this thing, the team was established to quickly go and deal with this matter. I don't know, Chair. I think this thing should be dealt with by internal arrangements, because there's a resolution with internal arrangements about that issue, your office. Chair, I want to propose that we follow that route, because some of the members here also sit with internal arrangements. And I don't know whether Honorable Kutsie is part of that internal arrangements, Chair, arrangements committee, because it was harshly resolved that Deputy Speaker must go and deal with that matter as a matter of ethics.
I am trying to follow your points, Honorable Mvenya.
Program 3, Chair.
Program 3, okay.
Yes, Chair.
Then is the issue of
the office.
Yes,
finding
especially. Yeah. Then when you look at the complaint is about the recommendation. Is it weak according to your reading?
Chair, I'm saying, Chair, this issue is an internal arrangement issue, and there was a meeting, IAC, where it was resolved, and it was very harsh. That the speaker, the deputy speaker, must go and resolve the matter immediately after that meeting, even here for LOC. So I don't know, Chair, whether this issue, I think we should first get an update from Honorable Kutsie before we include this matter.
Let's
Maybe
do this,
Honorable
Honorable
Kutsie.
Let's do this, Honorable Venya.
Yes, Chair.
What you just bringing to our attention is a matter handled at another subcommittee. Eh? All right. Whose progress report will be then be given to that subcommittee. What we have here is that at the time we're considering this 2021 budget of the legislature, we discovered that there's a member whose unable to have an office, which is a finding. I want to check with you, when you look at the recommendation around that, do you find it very weak? So that if it's weak, we strengthen it because it's for this committee.
Okay. No.
Because well, for us, we don't, majority of us, unfortunately, might not be sitting that internal arrangement is subcommittee. When you look at the recommendation, is it weak? Yes.
Chair, no, Chair. You see, Chair, this issue was handled differently by the committee, even this committee. So my issue here is having this as a finding, whereas it has been resolved somewhere else. Let's check with the member consent whether this issue has been resolved or not before we make it a finding. We don't want to have a finding if the matter has been resolved, because the committee meeting resolved that issue should be handled immediately after that meeting.
All
you
right.
Understand, Chair? So the member is here. He must brief us. Yeah.
I understand you.
You must tell us now whether this matter has been resolved or not, so that if not, then we leave it as it is, Chair.
I'm reluctant to allow that line of resolving the matter. Because what we can do is that at the time we were considering this as the picture. Also, we don't want this to be repeated in future. All right?
Okay. All right.
You get my point?
Yes,
because
yes.
If we leave, we don't indicate now, it will be repeated in future. You know?
Okay.
But we can, just for the sake of members of the committee, we can just allow Honorable Kuze just to take us on board. But I don't think that we have to remove this one. What we can do, we can just amend it to the at the time. All right.
Okay.
So that it can fit with the recommendation.
All right, Chair. Agreed, Chair.
Any update in this regard?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. It is with great regret that I must report that since our meeting of the 10th of this month and the 17th, I was not involved in any internal arrangements regarding the allocation of my office. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm still without an office. And what makes it more sort of embarrassment is that the speaker have made a ruling and she instructed the deputy speaker to execute her resolution, which was not done. There was further negotiations between the deputy speaker and the party involved who accommodate that office. And I was in no circumstances I was involved in any arrangements whatsoever. So the problem has not been solved.
Okay. Honourable Venya?
I'm listening, Chair. Then, Chair, it's fine. Yes. I think, Chair, we should find a harsher recommendation there.
This is what I wanted you there to get to. Okay. Can we pack this one, then allow you to think about this harsher recommendation once you get to other aspects? Because I wanted you to strengthen if you think that is weak.
Agreed, Chair.
All right. Members, can you be of assistance to the committee to strengthen this recommendation on the issue of members would for almost over a year now, and members not having an office? Any member would give us a stronger recommendation?
Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. Welcome, Honorable Fultani.
Chair, I think we need to look at our rules to see what is supposed to happen when the office of the Speaker for more than a year is unable to do what it is authorized and expected to do. What do the rules say? Or is there absolute silence there? Because it is clear here we as this committee are oversighting the functioning of the legislature. And the head of the institution is the Speaker. And numerous recommendations have been made. The need has been established. And we do not have an over the limit number of MPLs in this 6th term. So I would suggest that we look at it from that angle so that we are legally guided with regard to what we're supposed to do. And this is where the views of the legal representative within this committee would help us. That's a person that we could use as a resource to say when the Speaker is failing. I don't want to say unable or incapacitated. Bottom line is that the Speaker is failing to implement this, which is to allocate an office to a sitting member of the legislature. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, any other member? Because the Speaker will be called before the House in terms of our rules to account for failure to implement House resolutions. But this one is a matter of administration. Therefore, a member of the administration is the one which is the accounting office of the legislature, which in this instance is the secretary of the legislature, must account around that matter. For me, I wanted to say that to strengthen this recommendation around this, that the accounting office of the legislature must be held accountable for failure to ensure that each and every member of the legislature is allocated an office and able to work properly to discharge his or her responsibilities. Because we must place it to the accounting officer's hand, obviously, or doorsteps. Then, if therefore, then the accounting officer is finding difficult, the matter has become political, then that we have to ensure that the Speaker comes in and plays her part, in the resolving the matter. Because in terms of laws, it is the accounting office that allocates offices to ourselves as members of the legislature. That's my understanding. How about that, honorable members?
That is agreeable, Honorable Chair. I should think it's a route that we must follow. Yes. Yes, Honorable Chair.
I hope that the coordinators following our line of thinking and how we capturing this recommendation. I take that, members, what was raised by Honorable Bonyan and so far as lack of security of members' houses is not only talking about those that are in the ministerial residences, but everywhere where members of the legislature are residing, as of course being allocated those houses by the legislature. The matter of security is cutting across all members' residences, not only those that are residing in the ministerial residences. I think that has been seconded by all members of the committee. Anything else, members? Whilst members are still thinking about this, I just want to make this addition that I also think is important that we take care of.
Chair?
Yes, Tata.
Okay. The finding 1B under 6.2, which would have been the constituency model.
Yes.
Taking it very seriously that indeed constituency offices are an extension of the legislature. And the statement to the effect that we still do not have this model. My question is, what is supposed to be done and by whom to finalize this constituency model? Thanks, Chair.
In the legislature environment, issues of participation and ensuring that there's proper facilities, it is the duty of accounting officers, of course, having worked hand in hand with the the executing authorities. In this instance, the Speaker. All right. So I'm trying to respond to your question. But once the House accepts our findings and recommendations, they become House resolutions. Then we are going to hold the Speaker accountable for failure, therefore, to implement these House resolutions around these matters. But remember, the political head is having, a person that deals with technical aspects of things, which is the accountable person. Are you comfortable now, Honorable Rudani?
Your thinking makes me comfortable, but your wording is not quite precise. If I can make that analysis at the risk of being seen to be splitting hairs.
No.
I would want us to be more specific, Honorable Chair, not necessarily answering my question. I appreciate the fact that you are responding to it. I would want us to be specific because the sixth Parliament, tells us for how long the legislature has been around. And the Parliament allocates funds for constituency officers on an annual basis, and we're talking millions here. Therefore, we should be sick in our stomachs when we allocate funds for offices whose model of working has not been finalized by the legislature itself, because it makes it impossible for anybody to say, if you act like this and that as a given political party in your constituency office, then there's no basis for saying that you are misusing, government funds, because no model has been drawn up. This then brings me to the feeling and suggestion, strengthening your response to say, let's have deadlines on this, because we do have very effective meetings even during lockdown, Honorable Chair. Let's give our Speaker a date by which this model, some draft model, should be presented to this committee. I so move.
In terms of our rules, Honorable Fultani, once you present a report in the House and it gets adopted, each and every political head is given a maximum of 30 days to ensure that those get implemented. So in our report, the last part was indicated that in all these recommendations, we want this to be implemented within 30 days or something to be done after 30 days. That is my understanding, which covers the time frames in my view.
I'm happy, Chair. Thank you.
Members, anything else? Because
Honourable Chair.
Within less than an hour now. Yes,
Honourable Chair. May I come back to that paragraph, program number 2, paragraph 6.2, our findings there regarding the finalization of the parking carts at the airport, Port Elizabeth, that's not been finalized. We have to work that in as a finding with a recommendation that this must be solved as soon as possible.
Okay. That there are some, in Port Elizabeth Airport, to be precise, parking carts for members have not been activated for that airport, in that airport. And therefore, the recommendation will be, let's make sure that all, members' parking cards, get activated, all airports of our province. I think the coordinator must make sure that this is captured as such. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Anything else?
Chair?
Yes, Lalo. Lalo?
Yes. Yes. Honourable Fihlani?
Yes.
Oh, we are chairperson, Honourable Fihlani.
No, I first had her. Can I hand over back to my chairpersons now?
No, it's just for a small time, honourable members. I'm still in the queue here. It's just that one issue that I've had in regarding to the constituency model on the recommendation B, where it talks about the institution to ensure the finalization. Can't we also include the issue of making sure that all members are acquainted with what is entailed within the constituency model itself, so that all members must know what is entailed? I do not know the best English word to show that all members knows what is entailed within the constituency model, because it talks on the finalization, the recommendation part only. Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry I cannot be with you all because I'm still having a challenge that I still have to deal with. Sorry, Chair. It's just that I logged on, so when I come to the car and listen, then I go back to the queue.
All right. Honourable Minyalambisa, can I hand over back to you?
Chairperson, Stevenson.
In the chat box, I've seen Honourable Stevenson wants to speak. I'm also one of those that have lifted his hand, wanting to further, input on the report. I'm handing over to you, Honourable Minyalambisa. Honourable Minyalambisa, in the chat box, we have Honourable Stevenson, we have Honourable Vanya, we have myself. I'm handing over to you, Honourable Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Saziwa. Mungena usoqhuba namcobothi ndinengxaki ne-network apha. Kodwa ndiyeva ngoku.
Ake mandiqhubeke.
Soqhuba mcobothi.
Ndiyabulela. Honourable Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just
before you come in, I take that members have accepted what the chairperson of the committee, Honourable has indicated around the issue of the constituency model. I want to believe that we have accepted that.
Yeah, that's agreeable, Chair.
Thank you.
No, I wanted to help.
I want to talk on it, Chair. Stevenson.
All right.
I also want to talk on it.
I've noted you. Honourable Stevenson?
Yes, Chair. Just on the constituency model, in the last term, there was a draft document drawn up, and it was agreed there'd be a workshop of the Rules Committee to discuss it. We have never, ever had that workshop, so there actually is no constituency model approved. And something we need to be very careful of is if you have a one-size-fits-all constituency model, it might suit a very big party, but if you're a small party, you might want to have 20 officers instead of 10 officers, and you would not then be able to have a waiting room, a boardroom, a room for a an administrator, and then a room for the MPL. So I think before we all rush into this thing, we actually need to agree on various parameters for a constituency officers, because different political parties use this money in different ways when it comes to officers. So if you're in a smaller party, you spread the money wider rather than concentrate it on fewer officers. Thank you.
Right. Precisely, you're saying as part of this recommendation that we know a long-awaited workshop on the proposed model must be, conducted.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you to Honorable Stevenson for reading my mind, because I also had that issue. That changes the finding itself, Chair. I think we should change it, and it should talk to the workshop now, because we can't recommend that it should be finalized without having gone to that workshop, because we must first change it from the draft status to a model itself, and that can only be done when we have that workshop by Rose Committee. I think we should change it to that, Chair.
It's Van Vieren.
Otherwise, Chair, I also had something where we program general findings. I don't know whether we should first deal with this and come back later. But let me come back later, Chair.
All right. Honorable Van Vieren.
Chair, good morning. Sorry that I'm just quiet. I'm listening, but that's also partaking if you're listening.
No,
Chair,
I'm trying, Chair. I'm listening. It's also partaking.
Chair, I concur with the two Honourables, Mvenya and Stevenson, pertaining to constituency officers. We must not rush into it. We have to have that workshop so that we can discuss how constituency officers work for small parties and for bigger parties. That is why I want to say I concur with them. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I think I want to test this finding on this very, matter. That the proposed constituent model document has not yet been taken to the workshop as it was agreed sometime in the last term. May have something like that. The proposed constituent model has not yet been, our document has not yet been taken to a workshop as it was resolved in the last term. Therefore, the recommendation talks to what members are saying. Are you okay with that, members?
Can you repeat it, Honorable Chair?
I was saying the proposed constituency model, the proposed constituency model document has not yet been taken to the workshop as it was agreed in the previous term. All right, that's how I formulated it.
Susu document, Lord Chair, Pelapaku model, okay. The proposed constituency model.
So you are
and remove the document, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any person with a contrary view? None. Now, I want to raise the following matters, and I don't know whether there will be a proper program. But the first matter that I want to raise, that the legislature's infrastructure is not properly accessible to people who are experiencing physical disabilities, be it members, be it staff members. Because there's only one lift to the gallery. But for members who to go to the offices and members of the public who want to see members of the offices, there's no other way other than stairs. All right? So for me, it's one finding that I'm getting there because it means it's not accessible properly. We may be lucky now that don't have a member that would need maybe use a wheelchair. All right. You know, at some time we had the late Honorable Bonisi. All right. So that's one finding that I think is important for us to take care of if we are green members. The second matter is that the legislature infrastructure has not been upgraded for some time. As such, currently, as we are aware, we have a combined we have a dining hall that is used by both members and the staff of the legislature. There are no recreational facilities in the legislature. Also, when you look at the library of the legislature, it's very small. You know? So for me, there must be something that we talked about. The need to upgrade the infrastructure of the legislature, whether for it to be able to be accessible to everybody, whether we need to ensure that at least members of the legislature are able to exercise and whatsoever and so forth and so forth and so on. The second matter that I think I've also picked up is that in our committee rooms, there are no translation equipments as it happens in the House. And therefore, in terms of the upgrading of IT or ICT, there's a need that we need in our committee room to have at least translation equipment. Remember, when you go to the taking legislation to the people, we do have those gadgets that are able to assist everybody. So me, I'm just raising those matters as forming part of the findings that we have picked up. I just want your viewers, members, on what I'm saying is constituting some matters that we need to consider as findings as well as formulate recommendations, some of them. Any member? Well, I don't have anyone on my chat box. Any member who want to agree or disagree with my observations as forming findings?
Honourable Chair, Theo Kutsia.
Yes, Honourable Kutsia.
I fully support in what you're saying, or what you said regarding the committee meetings and so forth. And that brings me to another point. I've wrote to the speaker a couple of times without any response or acknowledge of my emails, and I also raised this point regarding the interpretation of languages during our virtual meetings, which cause a problem that people are frequently speaking in their home language, and it make it difficult for others to understand. But unfortunately, our speaker didn't see fit to respond on my email. So I don't know what we're going to do about it, because it caused a problem in following the discussions in our virtual meetings.
All right. You have supported me on the issue of the lack of translation equipment in committee rooms. On the matter of the upgrading of the legislature, any supporter of my finding?
Agreed, Chair.
All right.
Agreed.
On the matter of the legislation not being accessible to people with disabilities.
Agreed, Chair. Agreed. And again, Chair, that's a repetitive finding.
Of course. Of course. In each and every financial year, we raise these matters. All right. Can I ask members, therefore, to assist us with the, by formulating the recommendation to the already agreed upon additional findings, and place them according to the proper programs, of the legislature. Because I want to say that the one that talks to the lack of upgrading of the legislature, infrastructure must be a general finding in my view. That is also has been a repeated finding, right? Also, the matter of the committee rooms not having any translation equipment must also be a general finding in my view. It may not be placed into a particular program. Agreed, members?
Agreed, Chair.
Now, Honorable Person, can we help
Second.
us by, pardon?
Come again?
Can you help me by formulating, therefore, the recommendations of these findings?
Yes.
The lack of translation equipment in committee rooms, what will be your recommendation then?
Can we write the recommendation and send it to the committee coordinator?
We want it first to be indicated here so that can be recorded. So that when you look at against what shall have been written, we are able therefore to recall this is what was verbally formulated in the meeting.
Okay. But Chair, it was clear what you have said. I don't know whether you want, there's no perfect English here.
Yes.
We don't want long sentences and long English, all those things, you know.
All right.
What you have said is correct. That's my. That is what I'm just putting into your attention. Yes.
What is missing, honorable members, are the recommendations of the two broad general findings. The one that talks to the lack of infrastructure, upgrading of the infrastructure, to the one that talks to the matter of lack of translation equipment in committee rooms. So that's what I wanted you to help me so that you can verbally indicate here. Then when it has been put into writing, we're able therefore to follow whether this is what was indicated as a recommendation in taking forward those findings that we have already agreed upon. Honorable Van Vieren, Honorable Benya, can you help us?
No, Chair, can you please read the finding one first, your first finding, and then we listen carefully, and then we deal with that one and we find a recommendation for that particular one, and then we go to the second one, and then we craft the second recommendation.
The first one reads as follows. The legislature is not properly accessible to people with physical disabilities. An example that I've made was that of to people who want to come to offices, people who want to go to, the gallery because there's only one lift to the gallery, right? And I have even said, we are still lucky now that we don't have a member that is using a wheelchair and whose office might be upstairs. And unfortunately, the only way to get to upstairs is this lift that is only going up to the gallery. That is the first finding that I said, that our legislature is not accessible to people with physical disabilities. That was the first the finding that I've picked up, which is, of course, a repetitive finding. The second one that also talks to the issue of infrastructure, that the legislature's infrastructure has not been upgraded for some time. In that, for instance, the dining hall, there's no dining hall for staff members using the same dining hall. Two, there are no recreational facilities in the legislature. The library, is very small. I'm making those examples. That was the second one. The last one was, there are no translation equipments in committee rooms. making it difficult for other people who may speak other languages, so the 4 that we have gathered in our province, to understand and follow the meeting. Those were the 3 findings, Honorable Member. You can take any then to make a recommendation, formulate a recommendation.
Let's first correct the first finding itself, Chair. It should say the institution is not accessible to people with disabilities.
All right.
Institution is not to people with disabilities. Physical, properly.
Okay. Agree. I want the recommendation then.
May I come in, Chair?
Please, Honorable Sultani.
And the recommendation and the recommendation should be that we request Public Works to do an assessment. Yeah, to identify ways and means in which this situation can be ameliorated. That's my 2 cents worth of contribution to the debate, Honorable Chair. Thanks.
You're talking to the both issues that are concerning the infrastructure. All right.
Yeah,
members,
yes,
are you happy, members, with the what you said to be 2 cent contribution?
I said that's my 2 cent contribution.
Chair,
It's my son's favorite expression, Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
I think all the infrastructural findings should have one recommendation that says the legislature or the institution must engage Department of Public Works to ensure that all these infrastructural findings or issues are addressed.
Or shortcomings. Thank you. I take that you're seconding Honorable. I take that you're seconding Honorable Sultani.
Yes.
I only left one recommendation to make on the lack of translation equipment.
Yes. So the fact is 3 cents, 2 cents, is 5 cents.
Yes. All right. Ukanti ke indaliso ayikabikho indaliso yona yavukolweni andikayiboni. Ombonyana nganzima kuba ngithetha ngendaliso yavukolweni. Esihlanu. Nganzima. All right, Honorable Bese. I want to propose that to take forward the finding on lack of translation equipment in committee rooms, that the institution must make sure that before the end of this term, all committee rooms are, fitted with the translation equipment are fitted with translation equipment. The institution must make sure that before the end of this term, all committee rooms are equipped with translation mechanisms. And it's going to my proposed recommendation. Yes.
Chair, I'm not seconding you, Chair.
Compound sentences.
I disagree with that recommendation, Chair. Because the end of the term, it means nathi sabe singekho and it will give them excuse not to implement this thing.
You disagree with the time frame. 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 You di
Yes, Chair. I'm proposing,
Yes,
Chair. No, Chair.
Yes.
I want to change that recommendation. I want to propose that we have one recommendation for all these findings that have something to do with infrastructure, and say the department must engage public works.
Institution.
Yes. And
So
give
you
us
have
a
one
report
recommendation.
on the plan going forward, on the plans to correct these issues, Chair. They must engage public works and then give us a report on the plans. Because you've
even
raised
even on this matter of transition equipment in committee rooms.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair.
Okay.
All these issues that have got something to do with infrastructure, they must engage Department of Public Works and then come back with a report and a plan. Chair. We must first ask for a plan to resolve these issues, Chair. Then kula plan yabo that they will be bringing back, Tina, we will sit down as the committee and look into it and see which one can be achieved within this term or this financial or the next financial year. Let's not give them a leeway not to implement.
I want to request to Honorable Mvenya once again so that we don't confuse our coordinator. And all these general findings that we have discovered that have something to do with infrastructure indicate now that finally here is the final recommendation that we are making. I'm waiting for you, therefore, just once again.
In all findings, the institution must engage public works on all issues of infrastructure that have been raised by the committee.
Thank you. And to present a plan.
And present a plan to the committee within 30 days.
Thank you. Now it's more clear, Honorable Mvenya. Any second to this latest reformulation of our recommendation?
Honorable Chair, I would offer myself to second that with the slight amendment to say a response plan.
Okay. Can you die, Honorable Mvenya, with the just a small addition to your recommendation? Is that your formulation?
No, Chair. No, Chair. I'm very happy. I'm very happy because the plan, what Honorable Siltane is trying to indicate here is that we do not just want any plan. We want a plan that is out of their engagement.
All right. Thank you. Just remember
that is as a result of their engagement.
Yes. Members, I just want to bring to your attention that the coordinator is indicating that she's out of data. Can I check with Mr. Muhambi? Mr. Muhambi, are you still connected?
Yes, Honorable Chair, I'm connected, and as we are deliberating, I'm taking some notes so that we liaise with the committee.
Now we rely on you now because she has been cut off because she has run out of data.
No, I'm taking notes, Honorable Chair, then we'll liaise with her after the meeting so that we make sure that all the issues that are raised are captured correctly in the final report.
Thank you, Mr. Muhambi.
Thank you.
Yeah. Members, now that we have, interacted with the draft report of the committee and we've made further findings and recommendations, who's moving for the adoption of the report with all the amendments that have been effected?
Chair.
Honorable Mvenya?
Chair.
Under General.
Before that, Chair, before the motion, Chair, can I add something under general finding? General finding A. Can I amend general finding A? Can you say
what is currently reading?
It says the non-implementation of the House resolutions by the institution is a cause for concern.
Okay.
General finding 8.
Then your reformulation.
The continuous non-implementation of housing solutions by the institution with accountability is the cause of serious concern.
The continuous non-implementation
by the institution without accountability.
Okay.
Is the cause of concern. Full stop. No need to comment.
Also remember, you are breaking on the last part. Can you repeat it again for me? The continuous. Yes.
Yes.
Your mics. If your mics for more than 3 people are on, then you won't hear me.
No, his was off, ne?
No, I think Honorable Sultan is also on.
Yes. Honorable Sultan, switch off your mic, please.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. Please,
and we have
can you once again repeat so that he's able to follow you?
No, I now Katazeka. Rest assured, I now Katazeka. The continuous non-implementation of house resolutions without accountability is a cause for serious concern. Full stop.
Thank you, ma'am. I've got it.
Because
thanks so much.
Chair.
Honorable Van Vieren, the wolf.
Just a little more fire on what Honorable Vanya said. Can we insert the word continuous, repetitive, non-implementation? Continuous, repetitive, non-implementation.
Mr. Mohambi, have you captured that one?
Yes, it's correct. It's captured, Honorable Chair. Thanks so much.
Can I also try to add more fire, Honorable Vanya, to your part? By adding the word is an indictment to the legislature.
Yes.
It's an indictment because we're expected to conduct oversight over departments. But if ourselves we are not walking the talk, it's an indictment on our part as the legislature. Have you captured that part, Mr. Mohambi?
Yes,
Chair, same finding, Chair.
Pardon?
That should be a separate sentence on the same finding, Chair.
Yes. Oh, you want us to take to the findings? To findings.
You see that finding, what you have just said should be a separate sentence, but within the same finding, Chair. There should be a full stop.
Let's take it away from the recommendation.
Chair?
Let's take it away from the recommendation, but take it to the finding.
Finding, Chair.
All right.
Let's find that.
You'll add both this latter part in the finding and also in the recommendation.
Noted, Chair. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Members, I don't have anybody on my chat box. Can I check whether Honorable Nyalambisa is still connected? Because I want to take the meeting back to her to allow members to move for the adoption of the report as amended.
Chair.
Honorable Fildani.
Just two issues, Honorable Chair. I want to appeal to Honorable Mvenya to allow me to make a slight but significant amendment to her motion. Substitute the word continuous with the word continual. They carry two slightly different meanings. In other words, if we say continuous, it means non-stop, which means all recommendations are not being implemented. But if we say continual, it means intermittently they do implement, but it's not a clean sweep to say they don't implement anything. That's the first one. The second one is drawn out of nothing related to what we're talking about here, and I would hope that the minimum that would happen in the form of response by your good self is to say noted. I get a feeling that the members of various committees, at least those in which I sit, are beginning to show signs of fatigue. Remember, it's a new environment for us to be doing meetings in the way we are doing. And we've been going non-stop, if anything, with increased intensity. And I want to say the legislature, the programming committee, if I'm using the correct term, should begin to look at how we are going to deal with this. There is an element, if you look at the rate at which people have got appetite to engage on issues, they take off much more slowly than they did a month and a half or 2 months ago. So that's something I would suggest we begin to look at and to see how we can, deal with it. Because some of the people sit in meetings even on a Sunday afternoon, for that matter. You find that you basically have got only Saturday, really, where there's practical no meeting. But I know that with some jokes, people go to meetings, they go on oversight or something, even on Saturdays. So I'm feeling the fatigue myself, but I'm also looking at the way people respond when chairpersons of committees ask for comments and questions. It's just for your consideration. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Let us note what you are saying, Honorable Fieldani, because to me it talks to two things. That the way the program committee arranges is a business must take into consideration what you are raising. Two, the fact that we're operating virtually, we are having a new normal. How quickly can we go back to the legislature as the members of the legislature than to be in these virtual meetings? I think it talks to that. I think let's just take note of that so that those members that sit in those committees they can be able, therefore, to factor in this matter that you are just raising. That's how I read your matter.
Thanks very much, Chair. Spot on. Absolutely spot on.
All right.
Yeah.
You can switch off then your mic. Honorable Nyalambisa, are you still connected, my leader?
Yes,
I'm bringing back to the meeting to yourself. We are left with the item to adopt the amended report.
Thanks, President.
I want to hand over to you so that you can discharge that responsibility. And that after it has been amended, we will request that maybe by latest this coming Friday, we are given the return report with these amendments so that we can be able to check whether it captures what we have said. But in terms of the rules, we have to adopt this report today.
Thanks, Chair. Let me thank everybody in the meeting for the full participation.
Imaro Marshall, kala uyibeke kumalunga I movie report secondly. Then kusibulele. Members, I'm calling for a move of the adoption of the report as amended. Any mover?
Chair, let us move on. I'm also getting tired.
Yes.
Chair, I move for the adoption of the report with the necessary amendments attached to it.
Thank you. Any seconder?
Honorable Chair.
Honorable Vincent.
I move to second the report, adoption of the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Vincent.
Yes.
Honorable Nyalambisa.
Yes.
The report has been adopted with the amendments that we have effected. Can you close the meeting there now?
Let me thank let me take this opportunity and welcome and
members.
So Vala Honorable Sazi.
I was saying some fun Mashwen.
Asihlalo sogqibezela ngoba unengxaki uhonorable Nyalambisa ye-network. So ngicela sihlala apha silinde.
Yeah, let me pass my gratitude to all the members that have graced this meeting. And make sure that when we get the return report, the copy of the report on Friday, we're able therefore to follow it up, and then we're able to indicate if in some of the formation is not what we said in terms of the general trust. Thank you so much to yourselves, members. Thank you to Mr. Mohammed. Thank you to Ms. Mlindi. And thank you to the ICT, support person to our meeting. Thank you to everybody that contributed to our meeting. The meeting is adjourned until further notice. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Chair.
Chair. Honorable Sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Meeting closed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I want to advise, Chair, that the report, since there are so many amendments, the report should be sent to us before it is sent to whoever it is sent to, so that we see that the amendments have been captured correctly.
Yes, the Chila by Friday, Mabastumela, so that's strong see effective changes. Then once see if changes, then get to the go Hansat. Okay. Sign it.
Yes, yes.
This is long, then the corner is understating as a report.
Yeah.
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 Whoa, Betula Sakula, I won't be at Union. I'm signing off.
Sakula,